So here's a letter from the IRS that will make your stomach drop, especially if you're a business owner, a real estate investor, a professional, or anyone who cares about their reputation. It is the letter 3164B. It's the IRS's way of telling you in writing that we are going to contact your job, your neighbors, and your bank. So here's the thing. This is not a letter that is a threat. This is a promise from the IRS, okay? So I want you to listen closely to this episode of Tax Problem Solving because I'm breaking down what this LTR 3164 really means, why you got it, your rights, and how to shut it down before it turns into real life stress and embarrassment. I'm Deltrease Hart-Anderson, keeping the IRS out of your pocketbooks, wallets, and bank accounts. And welcome to another edition of Tax Problem Solved. So this LTR 3164B, yes, the IRS will contact outside sources, so third parties, if you don't respond to them. In plain English, this 3164B letter is just saying, hey, your case is active. The IRS is not waiting on you anymore to get around to it. And if you can't get us what we need, then we're going to go outside of you to get this information. Now, I want to be precise. This letter does not mean that they're going to call everybody and their mama. However, this gives them the right to contact everybody and their mama. All right, just letting you know they have those options on the table. Now, they do have a time frame that they will do so, and they have to tell you in the letter what the time frame is. So, for example, I received from an old client I haven't heard from in a while. They have a revenue officer. We were dealing with the revenue officer, all fine and good. Client disappeared. Now the revenue officer is sending me a letter saying, hey, we're sending you this because you're the power of attorney. So we just have to let you know what we're about to do. And that letter clearly states, we're writing you to let you know that we intend to contact other persons such as neighbors, banks, and employees, or even employers, okay? So they can contact your coworkers as well, by the way. So how does someone get this letter in the first place? Well, it's usually triggered, especially if someone has a revenue officer, and a revenue officer in the IRS's atmosphere, if you will, is a person that sole mission is to collect money. Someone owes the IRS. The IRS has sent letters, tried to do everything by mail or by phone calls. That didn't work. So now a revenue officer gets involved. So now that is a one person that's dedicated to collecting the money that's owed to the IRS from the taxpayer. That's the revenue officer. Typically, when your case gets assigned to a revenue officer, that is almost one of the worst things that can happen in a lot of instances, okay? Because the revenue officer, they are singular focused. They don't care about what is going on. All they care about is when you're going to give the IRS their money. That's it, okay? So this letter is probably going to be sent by a revenue officer, but why? Well, revenue officer may have been asking for some tax returns, but you have not sent the tax returns to them yet. Or you owe money and the revenue officer has been trying to establish an installment agreement with you and you haven't responded, or you passed the deadline to respond. This letter may be triggered. Maybe you were in an installment agreement. Now you missed a payment or two. Those terms are now violated. You may receive this letter. Maybe the IRS revenue officer requested some financial information or documentation from you, but either you haven't gotten them all the documentation, maybe you did not get them any documentation, or the documentation that you did get them, there's some discrepancies in it. It doesn't match, so the math ain't mathing based off of the information the IRS already has on you. This letter can trigger, this 3164B letter can be triggered because of that. And guess what, y'all? AI is playing a big part in how the IRS is moving around right now. So the IRS has been moving towards using advanced analytics and AI tools to help them identify patterns. So this 3164B letter could be triggered by what AI has provided as far as information on you as the taxpayer, okay? AI is helping the IRS identify people that are not compliant. AI is also helping when it comes to figuring out, oh, you said you make 70,000, but these AI streets are saying you make 170,000. So AI is really assisting, which I probably should do a separate podcast just on how AI is assisting the IRS. AI is definitely helping the IRS decide where to focus their attention, all right? Just letting you know in advance. So all of these things could be why you received that 3164B letter. So next, I want to talk about what the IRS can ask if they do contact a third party, if they do contact your neighbor, a bank, your employer, or even your coworkers. Well, in the letter, it's going to say the law prohibits the IRS from disclosing more information than necessary. But y'all already know. The real truth is, if the IRS is following the rules, even though they can only verify from your job, they can only verify your wages, how much money you make, how long you've been there. Same thing if they contact your bank. Do you have a checking, a savings, a money market? What all you got? Tell me, how much money is deposited, things like that. If they contact your coworkers, they might just, hey, how long has this person been there, right? If they contact your neighbors, how long have they been your neighbors? What kind of cars do they drive? Do they go on trips often? Things like that, right? Now that's all depending on the specific cases. That's all the information that the IRS could ask a third party, okay? The IRS can't ask about your specific tax situation. They cannot turn your situation into a full explanation to your neighbor. They can't. They can't even reveal more than what's needed to even identify you being a neighbor or a coworker or an employee, or if it's a business, your client relationships or your vendor relationships, right? They can't do that. However, y'all know if your employer, if your coworker, if the bank, and Lord knows if your nosy neighbor, if the IRS contacts them, those contacts, some people are going to just start squealing, right? Because they're going to be afraid. They're like, oh my gosh, the IRS contacted me. Let me tell them everything that they want to know so that they don't come after me, or to get them off my back, whatever the case may be. So that's why we take these letters seriously. Even if the IRS follows the rules, they're going to call your job. That calling, just the call alone, can still shake your stability at your job. A call to your bank, that could create friction between you and your bank. And a call to someone you know, that is going to create embarrassment. So take these letters seriously. you also need to know your rights, okay? Now, if you get this letter, I want you to start thinking. Don't think with your emotions. I want you to start thinking, what are my rights and what's my strategy? What's my game plan, okay? How to shut it down. So, here are the rights I want you to remember. You have the right to be informed. You have the right to representation, okay? That means you don't have to go it alone. You can get someone to represent you so that you don't have to be back and forth with the IRS. And I would suggest, especially if you got a letter 3164B, don't do this letter by yourself, because the information you provide to the IRS needs to be in line with what they think you should give them. So again, don't do this letter by yourself. You also have the right to privacy. Now, you might say, well, Deltrease, if they are already going to be able to contact my neighbors, my coworkers, the bank, my job, what kind of privacy do I have? Remember, the IRS is supposed to limit what they disclose and use those third-party contacts only when necessary. So a part of your strategy is don't let the necessary occur. Y'all, I'm sure y'all got that. Y'all got that reference, right? And another right, you have the right to challenge the IRS and be heard. Have your ducks in a row before you do that now, but definitely know your rights, okay? AI and analytics do not erase a taxpayer's rights. Just remember that. Now, lastly, let's talk about how to shut it down, or at least go into damage control mode. All right, here's your strategy. I want you to respond immediately. I tell people a lot, silence is gasoline on a fire with the IRS, especially when it comes to a revenue officer. So respond immediately. If you can't do it yourself, get representation. Your next step is to figure out what the IRS is looking for. Either you or your representative, y'all need to figure out what years are involved. Are there unfiled taxes? How much is owed? What's the enforcement posture? Where are you in the collection cycle? Are we talking liens? Are we talking levies? What are the deadlines? Know all of those things, okay? If you have missing returns, file those missing returns. Give those people their paperwork. Provide complete, organized documentation. This is where people get hemmed up, and this is where they pay for it handsomely. If the IRS feels like you are providing incomplete information, that's when the necessary has occurred. That's when they start talking to your coworkers, your neighbors, the bank, your jobs, your clients, your vendors. You don't want those problems. Get your documents tight. Get those bank statements, those profit and loss statements, proof of expenses. If you're in a hardship, provide the hardship documentation. Anything that revenue officer requests, get it to those people and get it to them on time and get it to them complete. Don't piecemeal stuff. That's going to infuriate them. Now you got a bigger problem. Get them their information on time. You control the information. All right? You control the information. Many revenue officers reduce chaos because you're cooperating with them, right? So if you're giving them information on time, you're doing what they ask you to do, they're calmer. They're more likely to deal with you in a professional manner that is more favorable to you, okay? Now, that's the strategy. That's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully this made sense. Remember, stop playing in the IRS's face. You don't want the necessary to occur when it comes to this 3164B letter. Don't wait for the IRS to start calling around on you. They will. But I want you to take action. I want you to respond. I want you to get organized, get compliant, and get to a resolution. I'm Deltrease Hart Anderson, keeping the IRS out of the pocketbooks, wallets, and bank accounts of taxpayers. If you find yourself having a 3164B letter or any letter, get representation, because we want the IRS to talk to either you or your representative, not your bank, not your job, not your coworkers, and definitely not your nosy neighbors. Till next time, bye y'all.